Hello and welcome to the Weeb Years, a questionably academic look back at the media and culture of the Western anime boom. My name is Beanie.
My name is Laurel, and what do you mean by questionable?
This one will be slightly more academic than others, and that's because it finally happened. I finally watched Evangelion.
I've been reading so many essays, you can't say that this isn't an academic episode.
What are your credentials? Where did you get your PhD?
My PhD in anime? No,
Just
I can't
name
think
off
of
your
anything.
real high school. Just dox yourself.
I went to college. I could dox my real college, but I don't have a degree in anime.
You did go to college. Good for you. I did not do that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's expensive there.
No, I have finally, after so many years, watched Evangelion for the first time. This is not your first time. You are the one with experience, this one. When did you first see Evangelion? What is your history with this?
I first watched this. I actually went back and checked. I first watched this when I was 17. And
Ooh.
I realized in this rewatch that I had actually watched the, on-air broadcast episodes and not the director's cut.
Oh.
So there were a lot of points in this series where I was rewatching it and being like, I don't remember this. What the fuck? So that was a wild experience. But I've always loved Evangelion. I love Hideaki Anno. I don't think I've really seen much of his stuff other than Evangelion and Shin Godzilla.
We wouldn't be able to do it for the show, but I would love to get you to watch Shin Kamen Rider.
I know a little bit about Kamen Rider. I had a roommate who was really into Kamen Rider.
I fucking love Kamen Rider. I will absolutely be leveraging my power to force us to do at least one Kamen Rider at some point.
I remember this anime so fondly, but I only ever remember the last 2 episodes of it whenever, I recall it, because that's when it really gets good for me. It's all good, but those last 2 episodes are mwah, chef kiss.
Definitely putting a pin in that for later. So Neon Genesis Evangelion first aired in 1995, produced by the still young Studio Gainax and directed by studio co-founder Hideaki Anno, who is today considered one of the most brilliant minds in anime, almost entirely just from his time working on Evangelion. It was first brought to the West in 1996 by ADV Films, who gave us the show's first dub, and after passing hands a couple of times, it is now owned by Netflix, who gave it a brand new dub in 2019. Now, we watched the Netflix version, because it's the most easily accessible for most audiences at the moment. I've seen some videos comparing the 2 dubs, and honestly, I do think I like this version a lot better.
Did you do any reading on, the production of this dub?
I did not, no.
So, let me kind of get into this with a bit of history on the EVA franchise. So there's rebuild films that were coming out from, early 2000s up until the early 2020s, I believe. I think it ended in 2021. But one of the films, there was a lot of controversy surrounding the dub because a lot of people felt it was being too heavily localized and too many artistic liberties were being taken and the original meaning was being misconstrued.
Now, question, I just want to interject. Have you seen those movies, or do you know about the localizations they're talking about?
It was specifically the one with Kaoru.
That's the gray-haired twink, right?
Yeah, the twink.
Okay.
A lot of people felt like it was upplaying the relationship between Shinji and Kaoru.
Oh, making it gayer?
Yes, and I think it was a situation where whenever Suki was being said, it was being translated to love and not like, and that wasn't quite the localization that, I forget the name of the studio, because this is after Gainax, I believe. This is when the other studio, I should have wrote this down. I think they're called Studio Korna, I want to say.
One sec, I've got you. Hideaki Studio Kara? Khara?
Yes, I was putting an N in there. So Studio Kara was the one animating those films. And after there was so much controversy surrounding I think it was the 3rd rebuild is the one with Kaoru, they stopped licensing to ADV and started having their in-house translator write the localizations.
I think I remember this. I think I remember all the talk about this.
How things were being localized to the original writers and confirm that things were being construed correctly. So for the Netflix dub, they had Studio Khara working closely with the Netflix localizers to ensure that the dub was as accurate as possible to the original intended meanings of everything that was going on.
Western anime fans having a problem with gay people in anime. I'd never believe it.
I don't think it's... I mean, you could interpret it that way.
I'm sure it was at least partially that.
I mean, I did also read an interview where Hideaki Anno and... what's his name? The guy who does the manga. I think it was him. And Hideaki Anno were being interviewed. And literally the way that they're like, people are like, oh, was it supposed to come off that way? And then one of them says, like, it wasn't supposed to be quite so homo, but... Like, I don't think it's a malicious intent because that's too funny and tongue-in-cheek of a thing to say. I think it's more that they just wanted it to be accurate to what they were saying and not that they were bothered by the depiction of homosexuality.
Motherfuckers out here really saying no homo.
Because, like, I do think there is a distinction. I mean, I've seen diagrams about how that, like, even the episode that Kaoru is in Evangelion TV is subbed so differently. Fan sub to fan sub. Like, I've seen some crazy diagrams. So I think it's just that because of how important intent and literal word for word meaning is in this series, with the level of abstraction that's going on, that would lead me to believe that that's why and not, like, literal homophobia. But you never know.
I'm still going to assume a 50-50 thing just because I know how Western anime fans are, unfortunately. Both with, like, the gays and, in general, their weird allergic reaction to good localizations and decent writing. I do really want to be clear, though, like, the Netflix dub, I think, is very good. Casey Mongilo as Shinji and Stephanie McKeon as Asuka, especially, like, they both do a fantastic job. And again, I've heard comparisons with the original dub, and I do think that this is the better version. I
haven't seen enough of the original dub to say, because when I watched this originally, I watched it subtitled.
Oh, I see.
So I heard...
I will say, I don't have an experience with the sub. I don't know how the dub compares to the sub in terms of just, like, acting performances and whatnot, but in terms of what we watched, I think it was really good.
I don't think I had any complaints about the Netflix dub, really.
Now, Evangelion has had an obscene and incalculable impact on both anime and pop culture in general. Its release in the West having a major effect on anime's rise outside of Japan, as it is. Along with making Anno a household name, at least in Japan, it helped put Gainax on the map, which of course also means it's partially responsible for the existence of Studio Trigger as well. It is such a monumental influence that it's become one of those properties that other creators will sometimes reference by accident.
Absolutely.
Have you seen that YouTube video where someone is like, how to live your entire day off of only Evangelion merch?
Yeah!
And it's like, put on your Evangelion t-shirt and your Evangelion sneakers, eat your Evangelion prepackaged frozen breakfast, get on the Evangelion Shinkansen train to go to your workplace.
Oh, I love my chopsticks, though, because they have little plug suits on the end with tiny little Asukas in them. They're awesome. Yeah, it's so fucking much, and there's so many spin-offs. I was gonna read one of the spin-offs because I have a few volumes of it before we got into this, but I didn't have time. I have the Shinji Ikari detective manga, a few volumes of it. The least canon one there might be, because it's about, like, Shinji and Kaoru working for Kaji as, like, student detectives. It's crazy.
Starting into the show itself, more so than other times, the first thing we have to talk about is A Cruel Angel's Thesis, the opening for the show.
This is one of those openings that I couldn't fucking skip no matter what. Like, I knew I was behind, but I still just sat there reluctantly listening to the intro every time because you gotta. It's so solid.
It's very good. This is considered one of the greatest anime openings of all time.
This anime opening is so recognizable that it made its way into fucking Canadian politics.
God,
like, you have to be a
it.
pretty big anime to do that.
I knew you were gonna bring that up, you motherfucker.
It's such a bizarre thing. I have to bring it up that we literally had a political party campaigning against our premiere with fucking Cruel Angel's Thesis edits.
Now, I do have to start out on a hot take.
Okay.
I do think Cruel Angel's Thesis is a little overrated. It's very good. It's very, very good. I don't know, I warmed up to it a lot more as I was watching the show, as I will say. But I still don't think it's really, like, top 10 material. At least for me.
Did you know it wasn't the original thing that Anno wanted to use as the theme song?
I did not.
He wanted to use classical music. It was specifically
That
like
makes
the
sense.
Dance of the Giants or something like that, it was called.
Oh.
But like that really makes sense, especially with all of like the classical music you hear with the later Angels in the series.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't fault you for saying it's overrated because it is super overplayed, but also I fucking love it. This is one of those intros that I cannot get enough of. Like the other one being Soda Ito Days from Gurren Lagann. That's another one that I just fucking love and like back in the day learned all of the lyrics to, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like I can't. It's nostalgic. It's got me by the balls.
I do want to be very, very clear. It is good. I like it. I just think maybe it's put a little higher on the pedestal than maybe it needs to be.
Yeah.
Alright. 15 years ago, a crisis called the Second Impact devastated the planet, destroying the polar ice caps, flooding most of the Earth, and killing off half of humanity. In the present day, 14-year-old Shinji Ikari has been summoned to the city of Tokyo 3 by his father to become the pilot of a giant robot called an Eva in order to fight off the return of the Angels, giants, otherworldly beings that seem to want nothing more than to wipe out humanity. Immediately, this show is visually stunning. The first episode alone has some fantastic shots. Like when you're slowly being introduced to the Eva as this like impossibly massive thing looming in the background. Like that first shot where you just see like its massive hand in silhouette behind everyone. It was so good.
It's freaky.
Also the shot where the angel catches a missile with the one hand and the way it just like crumples.
I'm gonna pause at this. I don't know that I 100% agree with this, but I kind of think it's an interesting talking point.
Mm-hmm.
I think Evangelion is like the perfect baseline anime style.
Just like art style, like visually,
Yes,
not like you're not saying this isn't going on like the first anime to show new anime watchers list.
No. I mean, like if you
Jesus
were to,
Christ, no.
No, I mean if you were to try to develop a style for an anime to be animated in, this is a really solid baseline, and there's a lot of different directions you can pivot from it.
That feels a little too subjective for me to either agree or disagree with you, but I don't think you're wrong for saying it.
Like, I think it's a good benchmark for, like, characters being on model, simplistic enough designs, versatility, you know?
I can see it. Like, this is, if you're wanting to learn how to draw in an anime style,
this
like,
would be a really great
this
one to
is a good style to
replicate.
copy.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's sort of where I'm coming from in this. Or if you're looking to develop an art style, this is a really accessible format that can be taken in a lot of directions. And I think
I can agree with that one.
For someone making an anime, this would be a good place to start with your drafts of characters aesthetically, or your settings, or like background settings, like not like.
Oh, the backgrounds are so good in this.
Yeah.
Now, let's get into Shinji. Shinji, arguably, is the reason why it took me so long to watch this show. In the mid-2000s, when I was in the height of my Weeb phase, Evangelion was going through its own phase. Specifically, the it's popular so it sucks phase that so many things are subject to at some point or another.
Can you give me like a year range? I'm not sure if this is like 2002 or if this is like 2008 or like what.
This is like 2008 to 2010, something like that.
Okay, so before like it really regained popularity and
yeah,
in like the lull.
Like you'll see this a lot. Like a piece of media will be super popular, and then after a few years, people will go, "Actually, it wasn't that good," which will snowball into, "Actually, it always secretly sucked," and then eventually it'll get revisited again with a maybe this was good actually mindset. But at the time, when I was really absorbing as much anime as I could, Evangelion was being accused of being overrated and only liked by people who were nostalgic for it.
That's crazy.
And one of the biggest complaints that you would hear about the show was that Shinji was this annoying, whiny bitch and an awful protagonist.
I always hated that and I never understood it.
I'm here now to say that Shinji fucking fucking rules, actually, and y'all are just dumb. All of y'all from 2008 who were saying that Shinji was a little bitch, fuck y'all. Shinji is a fantastic protagonist. I love Shinji.
I want everyone from 2008 who said that to have their dad make them go on a robot.
It's Shinji, like, here's the thing. This is a case where I do see what they are saying. I get where their argument is coming from. I just think it's a stupid fucking argument. Like, I understand why people think Shinji is annoying and whiny and a little pussy bitch baby, but you're wrong. Shinji is a wonderfully written character for the story that we are given.
Shinji isn't a little bitch baby. Well, he is in the sense that he's 14.
Yeah, he is exactly the level of whiny little bitch baby you would expect from a 14-year-old who is being put into a life-threatening situation against his will by his abusive father.
I want to take everyone who says that and shake them. Nothing gets me as viscerally angry as people who call Shinji a pussy-ass bitch.
Shinji is great.
Shinji has been through so much, and has probably been through more than the people who've been saying that.
Oh, for sure. No, like, it is honestly amazing just how hard and how fast this show hooked me. By the end of episode 2, I think I was almost angry it had taken me this long to watch the show. My only real complaint early on was that there was way too much off-putting horny humor for my taste, especially once Asuka was introduced.
I could see that. However, I think that also because the show is through the lens of a 14-year-old who is not the amount of horny humor doesn't bother me in this show. I don't know if that's because it's characters putting themselves in those situations a lot of the time, especially with Asuka. Like, a lot of the time it'll be her acting a certain way to get attention, which is...
It's very in character, for sure.
It's relevant to the themes that are going on. It's relevant to the characters and their stories. It doesn't feel like it's just slapped in there. In the same way that, like, you would look at Evangelion marketing and, like, extraneous materials and think, oh, this is random horny shit for no reason. The stuff in the show is in context enough that it doesn't feel like it's specifically trying to sexualize minors in a way that makes me uncomfortable.
I think that there is a paradigm shift that happens about halfway through the show that makes me retroactively more okay with some of the hornier humor in the beginning, but I want to cover that more later on, so where we can talk about it more. But we'll definitely get back to that.
I also think a lot of it is light enough that it doesn't bother me. A lot of it is at Shinji's expense also.
It's really not even so much the fact that it's horny humor necessarily in the beginning, so much as it's just kind of like childish horny humor, and it's more so that it feels tonally disconnected from the rest of the show than what else is going on.
Yeah, and there are some production reasons that would happen, because they really did not pace themselves well with making the show. There's a lot of rumors that they ran out of budget. They did not run out of budget for this show. They ran out of time. So... like, I get why it is. It doesn't put me off. Also, I like the way that they do the sexual humor a lot in this show, that it's like, it's more body humor than sexualization of characters, which is a little bit more accessible to me. Like, I think the boner jokes are funny in Evangelion, because they're not trying to sexualize a character. It's like, oh, this is putting you in the shoes of an awkward teenager. Like, it's very personalizing to the characters, in my opinion.
I think we should move on, because I think we're dangerously close to comparing Evangelion to Big Mouth, and I think that could get us killed.
Ew.
Moving on. So Shinji gets drafted by NERV to be the pilot of Eva Unit 1, and is put under the watch of arguably our second main character, girl failure extraordinaire Misato Katsuragi.
I love her, but I hate her, but I love her, but I hate her, and the reason I hate her is because I grew up to be like her.
Oh, oh boy.
And that's hard to handle.
Oh, there's a lot about this show. Like, slightly off track for a second, but there's a lot of this show that's very hard to handle. Like, anytime you have a relatable moment while watching Evangelion, it's not a good time. Every time you relate to this show, it's for a bad reason that makes you think way too hard about yourself.
Like, the Misato walking around, like, half-dressed, the house a mess, eating only ramen and beer. Like, oh god.
There's a...
Oh no.
There's a moment near the end of the show where someone's talking to Shinji and they're like, you only assume everyone hates you because you hate yourself. And I was just like, oh.
There's a lot of those moments.
I didn't need that.
But that's fundamentally what the show is about, is making you look at yourself and your psyche while you're watching it. And if you're not having that experience, you might need to rewatch the show.
If you're not having that experience, you need therapy. Everyone needs therapy anyway. Go to therapy, kids. Now, without getting too deep into it, I really like Misato's development.
Yes.
I feel like at the start of the show, she was definitely just pretending to be nice to Shinji under orders to manipulate him into piloting the Eva. But over time, that you see that she, really does care about him, almost, arguably somewhere between mother and big sister thing. But it's a very nice development that's subtle enough where it took me a minute to realize, oh, she started caring about him episodes ago, but it was such a smooth transition, I didn't even notice it.
It's fantastic, and it's made really clear, at least to me, I'm inferring this, that she really starts to get attached to him because she sees herself in him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's enough scenes that kind of hit on that point, that's intentional, and that's the direction that they were going with that, is she's seeing herself in him, and she's trying to get him on a better path than she was on.
There's a common reoccurring theme with the show of the adults viewing younger versions of either themselves or people that they were close to in the children.
Yes.
And also, I don't want to talk too much about it because spoilers, but each of the three kids kind of has their own designated adult to have an unhealthy relationship with. Which, speaking of, another character we're introduced to early on is Rei Ayanami. Rei is this quiet and serious young girl who pilots Eva Unit 0 and appears to have some sort of connection to Shinji's father. Rei is also a walking spoiler, and I don't think we're ever going to get to mention her again. Let's talk about Gendo Ikari for a moment.
He's the freakiest looking son of a bitch. Holy shit. They do such a good job at making him look creepy.
Oh, his design is fantastic.
Holy shit.
He has a wonderful design.
At a point, too, in the series, you see him younger, and he's just as scary, and that's terrifying to me.
I was really put off.
Part.
I was very put off. It makes sense. They're related, but I was very put off by just how much young Gendo looks like old Shinji.
I always thought that Shinji looked a lot more like his mother. I don't really see as much of him in Gendo.
At, his current age, yeah, but also, if you look at young Gendo, you could tell me that was old Shinji, and I would fully believe you.
Oh, I would not believe it. Those fucking crazy eyes? No way.
Hey, Shinji's been through a lot, man. But yeah, Gendo is considered by many to be one of the worst fathers in anime, right next to Sho Tucker from Fullmetal Alchemist. Absolutely, the dude does a lot of fucked up shit throughout the show. But I gotta admit, there were moments where I caught myself thinking, this dude isn't evil, he just doesn't know how to make small talk. So I guess what I'm saying is that Gendo is my autism-coded character for the show.
There's a lot of discussions on who in Evangelion is autistic and if they are autistic.
So, one of the bigger themes of this show, arguably, is it's your typical do the ends justify the means sort of thing. However, I've spoken before, I don't remember where, but I've spoken before on the show, that normally I think those stories are stupid and childish and not written well.
Sure.
But Evangelion, here it is, folks. I've finally found a piece of media that does do the ends justify the means and makes it interesting.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Gendo is the fucking poster boy for the whole thing, because he is just a perfect example of he's a shitty dad. He does not give his son nearly enough attention, and he treats his son more like a tool than anything else. But also, he is kind of doing it he's kind of doing it for the benefit of humanity. Other characters are maybe a little more on just Misato. Misato's a good example. At the beginning, I do believe that Misato was only pretending to be nice to Shinji to get him to pilot a giant robot. And it's a very interesting thing, especially for her, where it's yeah, it does suck that I'm manipulating and basically grooming this child, but also, if I don't, everyone's gonna die.
Yeah, grooming him in the sense of a gun way or for a certain purpose rather than the way that we typically hear it used nowadays.
The first half of the show is sort of your typical monster of the week giant robot show, just with some heavy undertones of psychological trauma and eldritch horror. And actually, one minor quibble I have with the show is that a good chunk of the episodes follow this formula where an angel attacks, Shinji and the others get their asses kicked, but then something conveniently causes the angel to just stop caring for 24 hours so that our heroes have just enough time to come up with a desperate 1 in a million plan that has no chance of working, but also always works.
So from what I understand and what I've read is that, like, the reason it's more episodic like that is because it's meant to be a deconstruction of the genre as a whole.
Oh,
and I was
yeah.
wondering, like, I don't know if you've seen any of the stuff that it's specifically, like, trying to be responsive to.
I mean, Gundam is obviously one of the biggest ones, but Gundam also itself is sort of a deconstruction of the whole child giant robot pilot thing.
Yeah. I don't really know enough about the material it's critiquing to really speak on it, but that was the gist that I got. I haven't seen much mecha.
It is definitely playing with that formula very intentionally. Like, I think Evangelion being a deconstruction of that genre is a pretty well-known aspect of the show.
Yeah.
And I think it does do a very, very good job. But, it's not a huge complaint, but the formulaic nature of it, while arguably somewhat intentional, is still noticeable enough that it can draw you out of it every now and then. But it is comparatively, it is a very minor complaint.
I think the first half goes on too long. I would agree.
I'm going to be very interested whenever we can get to some, like, much older mecha stuff, like Mazinger Z or something like that, and have the foresight, of having seen Evangelion and how it handles things and make, like, retroactive comparisons to it. I think that's going to be a very fun thing.
There was one they referenced a lot in interviews that's like Ideon.
Ideon, I think is what it is.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure. We'll have to add that to the list at some point.
They reference that a lot, like Ano and the guy whose name I don't remember. But like
the manga author?
Yeah, the manga author. He's like the character designer as well. And he also actually had a lot of influence over the theming of the show itself.
Yoshiyuki Sadamoto.
Sadamoto, yes, thank you. Ano and Sadamoto discuss Ideon a lot in early concepts for EVA and how they developed the series. So I think that would probably be the best thing to like compare it against, because they both talked about growing up with it and it informing how they wrote Evangelion.
We'll definitely watch that at some point.
Yeah.
About a third of the way through the show, we get introduced to, unironically, the best character in the entire show, Asuka. Considering what a huge character she is, I was really surprised how long it took for us to meet her, but her introduction is fantastic.
The hardest part of the show is getting through that stretch, like in the episodes.
The pre-Asuka.
The pre-Asuka, when you know she's coming and they're making reference to her being on the way, and you just have to wait.
She really does, like, her introduction in the show really does just mark a turning point. Like, there's pre-Asuka, which is good. It is still very good. Then Asuka shows up and it's like, oh yeah, here we go, baby. And then a few episodes later, we get another shift that we can't really talk about, and it's like, oh boy.
Not only Asuka, you also get Kaji.
We'll get to Kaji in a minute.
Well, I think that, like, he, regardless of how you feel about him, he is doing a lot in the show and putting moving a lot of things forward.
Oh,
so,
100%.
Like, his introduction,
he's very integral to the story.
Regardless of how you feel about him, he really pushes the plot forward and continues to push the plot forward to insane points, I would say.
Definitely. No, Asuka's introduction is fantastic. It does a wonderful job of both establishing her character as this, like, loudmouth braggart desperate for praise, but then also showing just how different she is from Shinji and setting up their dynamic for the rest of the show. Episode 8 is one of the best episodes, arguably. And it's
100%.
pretty much just because it introduces Asuka.
Well, not only that, but there's a lot of, like, visual symbolism in that episode that continues to be carried out throughout the show that I didn't notice until I went and read people's essays, and it's like, she's literally introduced silhouetting the sun, whereas Rey is always seen in front of the moon. Like, there's so much aesthetic theming going on. It's so cool.
I never noticed that. That's really cool.
Isn't that interesting?
I did have a thought partway through the show that you might hate me for, but give it some thought before you come for me, okay? Mm-hmm. Asuka is just girl Bakugo. I don't think I'm wrong.
I never got I didn't get far enough into Boku no Hero. I don't know. Like, I don't know why he is the way he is. I'm assuming you're talking Boku no Hero Academia.
Yeah, maybe some of the more devout maybe some of the stronger Boku bros in the comments will have more to say. But I feel pretty strongly, like, they're not exactly the same, obviously, but there are enough overlappings in their characters and their dynamics with the main characters where I was watching Asuka and it's like, this is just a redheaded Bakugo with titties.
I don't know. I don't know enough about him to say. I mean, they're both tsundere, is what it breaks down to, fundamentally.
Oh, I know somebody out there will hate the fact that you just called Bakugo a tsundere, but
Why?
I'm not going to argue either. Now, we're going to get back to the localization conversation real quick, because this was also the episode where something started bothering me.
Okay.
The way Shinji is called the third children, or Asuka is the second children, the way that they'll use the plural children, but as a singular. Like, it's obviously a direct translation from the original Japanese, but what I want to know, is there an actual reason for it beyond just an overly faithful translation? Or at least that's the question I was going to ask. But then we had that conversation earlier, and it's like, oh, that's probably what it was.
No. They're called children in the Japanese. Like, the English word children.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, that is, it's an overly faithful translation because that is what they called them in the Japanese. But if you were to localize it and make it make sense for English listeners, the name would be changed to the third child, the first child. But they didn't do that. What I was wondering was there a, air quotes, good reason for that? Like, was there some deeper theming to using the word children that I just wasn't getting? But from the sound of things, it was just that one studio having a little too much oversight in the localization and making them be a little more literal than they maybe needed to be.
Well, it's, like, because it was done with the in-house translator, that leads me to believe that there's some reason they've done it like that. I don't know what the fuck it is.
I'm sure there's a reason, I'm just not sure it's a good reason.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess what they could have done is they could have gone for German.
That could have been fun. And yes, this is also the episode that introduces us to Ryoji Kaji.
I love Kaji.
I want it on the record that he sucks and I don't like him.
I love him.
I hate him.
I love him.
They try to do the charming pervert thing with him, but for me at least, they totally fail at the charming part.
Oh, I find him so charming.
He's so gross. I hated him.
I don't find him gross. I love him. Like, I think he would have come off as the gross pervert if it weren't for the interactions he had with Asuka. The interactions he has with Asuka make me feel better about him as a person and make me, like, willing to give him more trust.
He definitely could have been worse, for sure. I was very glad that he wasn't a sex pest towards Asuka. Instead, he's just a sex pest to everyone else.
I don't really think, like, he's I read him as flirty, but not a sex pest.
He's flirty, but you can tell that a lot of the other characters don't enjoy it.
I always thought it was more of, like, an eye-rolling response and not, like, an I am uncomfortable response, like, really, you're trying this right now sort of thing.
There's a couple. Like, there's that one, the short-haired girl, I don't know her name, but the short-haired girl who works in the
Maya.
Yeah, like, he tries hitting on her and she straight up runs away.
Yeah.
You are right, though. It could have been a lot worse if he was also trying. And I was afraid of him being a sex pest towards Asuka, because as I said earlier, all three of the kids kind of get their designated unhealthy relationship adult. And considering the way Misato and Shinji's dynamic started, with Misato kind of tricking him, manipulating him into being a pilot, I was very afraid of the more modern definition of grooming happening between Kaji and Asuka for the purposes of giant robot pilotation. Thankfully not the case.
No, thankfully.
Wrapping back to Asuka for a moment, there's this very small but very impactful scene that I really, really enjoyed in episode 10 that I wanted to point out. It's the three kids are hanging out in a pool together, and Asuka is like, "Hey Shinji, watch this," before doing a cool dive or something like that. And it's a really effective way of showing how badly she wants attention and praise. even if it's from someone she claims not to respect. It's both a really nice glimpse into her character and also just like a very kid thing to do. Honestly, I think one of the strongest parts of the show is how Shinji and Asuka feel like real children.
Oh man, there are so many essays on Shinji and Asuka's relationship and whether or not she hates him. It's crazy. And it only gets crazier once you get into stuff like End of Evangelion.
Oh, I can only imagine. Speaking of these characters being children, let's talk about how much you see Asuka in hentai.
Oh.
It is not at all uncommon or surprising to see teenage characters from anime and manga being the target of hentai doujin. I'm definitely not saying it's a good thing, but that is just the world that we live in. If you're on the internet long enough, you're going to see Misty having sex with a Machamp at least once. The thing is, though, that a lot of characters in anime aren't exactly written like real teenagers. A great example of this is a show I've been watching recently, My Dress Up Darling, where the characters are written like they could be college students, but it's set in a high school because that's what's marketable. Before watching this show, I had no idea just how much of a capital C child Asuka was. Like, I know the entire concept of Evangelion is deconstructing the whole child robot pilot thing and whatnot, but holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
The sexualization of Asuka, even in just like official merch like statues and shit, I did not prepare me for just how much of a child she is.
Yeah.
Very, very well-written child. Like, let me pound that into the ground. She is a wonderfully written character, and it's so good, but like, oh, I'm so much more uncomfortable than I already was.
Yeah, I mean, Ano himself has spoken as to how merchandising is like, it is what it is, sort of thing, and he doesn't have control over it. Mm-hmm. He just kind of licenses it out through Gainax, and it's like, oh.
To be clear, this is not intended as a condemnation on Ano or any of the creative staff. Like, this is almost entirely just talking about perverts on the internet drawing naked teenagers.
The fact that he has spoken on the marketing and how he feels about the marketing is, I think, enough to show how involved he and the original people writing Evangelion are with advertising, merchandising, etc. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just something that's its own beast, and that is so fueled by otaku culture, as disgusting as it is.
I do not believe that the show sexualizes any of the underage characters in the show. I believe everything else around the show, fan-made or official, sexualizes the children.
I haven't seen the rebuilds either, so I can't speak to those. I don't know if they're better or worse or what, but Hideaki Anno, I believe, did write the script for them, so I'm going to have my fingers crossed and have hope.
Mm-hmm. Now, Laurel, you've spent the last 2 weeks or so just gobbling up as many fan theories and essays as you could.
Yes.
And I know how excited you are. So I'm just gonna hand the steering wheel of the podcast over to you for a little while and just let you ramble on about the deeper philosophies of this show for as long as you want. Give me your dissertation.
Oh god. Okay, so the one thing that I really wanted to touch on is that there is so much misinformation about Evangelion. There's so fucking much. It's insane. And like, the amount of it that has been put forward by, quote, official sources, unquote, is insane. Like, the only coherency I was able to find was like at some point, I just stopped taking everything seriously unless it had citations, because that's how much misinformation there is about this. It's the poke god of anime.
I mean, to be clear, that's a good way to do research in general, is look for citations.
Oh, 100%. But, like, usually you don't have to do this much fact-checking on literally everything. Like,
there was one piece of misinformation that I wanted to cover, because I thought it was the most interesting. If you want to jump into that
before I go into all the other fucking crazy misinformation that I found.
If you're doing research on this show, it is very common to find people talking about a quote from Hideaki Anno where he says that the Christian symbolism didn't have any meaning behind it, and he just added it because it looked cool. Mm-hmm. This is actually a conflation of a pair of quotes between him and the show's, I believe, assistant director, Kazuya Tsurumaki. In a 2001 interview, Tsurumaki was the one who said, "There are a lot of giant robot shows in Japan, and we did want our story to have a religious theme to help distinguish us. Because Christianity is an uncommon religion in Japan, we thought it would be mysterious. None of the staff who worked on Eva are Christians. repercussions. There is no actual Christian meaning to the show. We just thought the visuals and symbols of Christianity look cool. If we had known this show would get distributed in the US and Europe, we might have rethought that choice, which, by the way, is very funny. Now, what Anno actually said, in reference to the Christian symbolism, was that since he wasn't Christian himself, he didn't have to care if using the iconography of it was sacrilegious or not. He absolutely did have intent behind a lot of what he did, he just wasn't afraid of the repercussions. Which, big dick energy from Anno, by the way.
So this is actually the first misinformation on the list of misconceptions I've been working off of. And what's interesting is apparently, according to Eva Geeks, which is the source I've been using for most of my research, they talk about how a lot of the references are references to Ultraman.
I do know that Anno has a big thing for Ultraman. I believe when he was in film school, he basically made an Ultraman fan movie as like his thesis.
So like this image is like an Ultraman scene that you can kind of tell parts in Evangelion that were influenced by it. I won't say any spoilers, but if you know, you know.
For the listening only, for the audio only audience, what I am looking at right now is a scene of 4 Ultramen crucified in a graveyard.
With like a smoke machine?
It's quite an interesting show. Japanese media, especially tokusatsu, has such a hard-on for their characters being crucified. There's so many scenes of Super Sentai and Kamen Rider characters getting crucified.
But like this picture in particular, because like I can literally look at this and see like 3 different Evangelion scenes that literally use the same posing. It's also just such an interesting concept. And like the Christian theming goes incredibly deep, and also I think it's worth noting that it's very Judeo-Christian. There's a lot of stuff that is coming from Jewish culture as well as like Jesus culture.
Something about Jesus culture was just very funny to me.
It is just a really interesting concept to have an outside look at Christianity as mythology, though. I think it's so cool. But I'm also someone who didn't grow up within Christianity, so Evangelion was my introduction to a lot of Christianity.
I did grow up Christian. I just got out of it semi-early on.
Oh, there was one I wanted to touch on. This was what Eva Geeks said about specifically like ADV and statements made by those who distribute Evangelion outside of Japan. Our list of common misconceptions page lists over 50 items, and the public statements of ADV staff, as well as their inaccurate translations and creative liberties when adapting EVA, have been directly responsible for around a third of them.
Damn.
Like, that's fucking crazy. I don't understand how ADV kept doing the rebuilds as long as they did. I guess just because it was Web 1.0, it wasn't the modern internet, you know?
I mean, especially for that time period, that's really not that uncommon.
No.
That's a thing that you would see a lot in the original Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z dubs. Like, you know, the incredibly popular over 9,000 meme?
Well, no, it's not just that, but it's also, like, stuff they said in, like, commentary tracks about the show.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just talking about, like, inaccurate dubbing.
No, because this next part, the infamous mythology of Evangelion bonus feature in ADV's Platinum Collection is a good example of ADV's staffers greatly overreaching and presenting their own theories as fact, even when they are grossly inaccurate. This would be bad enough, but they also make several false claims about Anno having said this or that. This is also contained in the End of Evangelion DVD audio commentary track, affectionately called by fans the Commentary of Evil. Like,
I like that. That's very good.
Holy shit, this I think is why the whole conversation about like localization versus translation is as heated as it is, because the stuff that distributors said about the show and posited as things that Otto said are absurd.
That is wild. I gotta say, I still disagree with the over-literal approach that the companies eventually went through for the Netflix dub. However, I do understand their desire to do so after what was apparently a very poor experience the first go-around. Like, I just think they overcorrected,
I think it would make sense if it was just, like, the stuff about, like, playing up the relationship between Shinji and Kaoru in one of the films. But, like, the fact that they were putting out DVD commentary tracks where they were just making shit up and saying it was, like, attributed to Anno, or, like, they were positing interpretations and presenting presenting them as fact because they were the official distributors. Like, it's pretty insidious. Like,
that is nutburgers.
It's not malicious, but woof.
Yeah.
There were a few other, things of, misinformation or urban legends or what have you that I actually believed going into this and found out, oh, that's not true.
Oh.
I'd always seen people talking about how the reason that the show has such weird pacing and, such a tonal shift between the first half and the second half is because Gainax ran out of money. Mm-hmm. Nope.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that, too.
Nope. That's completely false.
Interesting.
It's entirely that it was, a pacing issue and a scope issue and a project management issue, but people love to say that they ran out of money.
See, okay, that's making me rethink my viewpoint on something, because I had also heard the whole limited budget thing, and there is a lot of scenes in the show that fully just reuse animation from earlier episodes. There's a lot of reuse shots, and it's not like a stock footage type thing, like you would usually see in a mecha of a transformation or something like that. It's very commonly reused angles of just a character talking in a certain place, or they'll do another thing which I think works because it's kind of an artistic angle that they do it, but there'll be a lot of shots where it is a single still image with people talking over it that will go on for a while. Sometimes too long, I will say. Sometimes that shit gets stretched out a little too long and it feels a little cheap and feels obvious. And those are the ones where it made me fully believe, oh yeah, this makes sense though as a cost-cutting thing. If they had a low budget, reuse as much as you can, just make it work in an artistic way. But if it turns out that they didn't actually have budget constraints, that feels a little cheaper now in hindsight.
No, but they had time constraints.
That's fair. There is also
show really it's time and project management constraints, and it's also the nature of the anime industry and how quickly episodes are pushed out before they're actually aired.
Now again, they do a very good job of it. Most of the time it comes off as an artistic decision.
Well, it was actually worse in the original aired version. They reused a lot more.
Oh.
In the director's cut, they added a lot of new scenes.
Okay.
There's also the fact that as they were working on it, a lot of the people working on it began to be impacted on a mental health level by the content of the show.
Is that a misconception, or is
that's one of the things that actually had a hand in influencing how the show played out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going into Evangelion and you haven't indulged in the series before, you don't know what's true, you don't know what's not, and maybe you've heard some misinformation like I have. Hideaki Anno, in a 1996 interview with New Type, said this one statement that I think is good to keep in the forefront of your mind whenever you're reading people talk about Evangelion.
Okay.
This is how Anno speaks about his beloved series. Evangelion is my life, and I've put everything I know into this work. This is my entire life, my life itself. Evangelion is like a puzzle, Any person can see it and give his or her own answer. In other words, we're offering viewers to think by themselves, so that each person can imagine his or her own world. We will never offer the answers, even in the theatrical version. As for many Evangelion viewers, they may expect us to provide the All About Eva manuals, but there's no such thing. Don't expect to get answers by someone. Don't expect to be catered to all the time. We all have to find our own answers.
I've been editing a different episode, one that we recorded before this, but it's going to come out afterwards, so I'm not going to say what. But I've been editing another episode at the same time as this, where a similar thing was brought up, and we talked about how there are plenty of times where a writer will say, oh, I want this left up to audience interpretation, but it's very clearly just they're too lazy to come up with an answer themselves, and it just comes off as bad writing. This is definitely, that was not one of those times, and this is also definitely not one of those times. This is a place, there was a moment in the show where I thought to myself, oh, I hope that they don't explain the angels. I don't want the angels to be explained. I want them to remain as otherworldly and unknowable as they are currently. I think this show does a very good job of the leaving it up to interpretation thing.
It's if you were to look at it in sort of the context of visual art as a medium, it would be the equivalent of negative space. The stuff that you're leaving out has to be intentionally left out for a purpose, or it's just laziness. And in this case, I think it's a mix of things. For the angels, it's definitely to make them seem to play off of the horror element, because in horror writing, it's always really important to know when to leave something out, because it's scarier to the audience to fill in something than to just be told something.
Mm-hmm.
But for Evangelion and its, like, plot coherency, it really feels more like it's, like, in the core design of the series, and that it's meant to be engaged with in more depth than other stuff you would be sitting and watching. It's almost like you're watching a show that is also an ARG, before ARGs really gained popularity as much as they did, you know?
I wish you could see the series of facial expressions I made after you said that, but I don't think you're wrong, necessarily.
Like,
this is not something I was expecting.
It's like a different level of interactivity within the media that he's striving for than just sitting and being fed a narrative. Because there are a lot of series where that makes sense, but this is, at its core, about the human psyche. And in order for it to really hit on those themes, it needs to be encouraging you to reflect on those aspects of yourself.
I think there are some themes or some messages in writing in fiction that can be hard to write about because they are such subjective topics, and sometimes the answer is to leave it up to interpretation. Even if you have something specifically you want to say, you can put that in as much as you can, but it might be better to let the audience come to their own conclusion. And I think this is definitely one of those cases. I think this is one of those where the messages and themes can be so abstract that it is better for them to just be like, what do you think? Now, obviously, we can't really talk about the ending, basically, at all. However, I did want to speak on how it ends, because we kind of got Code Geassed again. I knew that there was a movie out there called End of Evangelion, and yet somehow I never considered just how literal that would be.
I even asked you, do you want to cover End of Evangelion with this? And you said, no, we'll cover it separately.
Yeah, because I didn't realize. Again, it was like with Code Geass, where for some reason I assumed that it was just sort of a sequel, or at least that the show had a more concise ending, and maybe that End of Evangelion just kind of added to it. I was not aware, like you covered earlier, the show had a very troubled production, and that resulted in a rushed and arguably unfinished ending with a handful of unanswered questions. The last two episodes kind of feel like the show is giving you a book report on itself.
I don't feel that way.
It's basically the writers going, if you don't get it by now, then here you go. Which, on the one hand, it does kind of feel, but I will say, considering the restraints that they were under, I do think it is very well done for what little time they have. Like, it is very impactful. The visuals, as with the rest of the show, are very good. I think they do a good job of condensing down the message. It is very unfortunate that it had to end the way that it did, and I am looking forward to the movies and End of Evangelion for a potentially better ending.
The movies are not a continuation, the movies are a retelling. End of Evangelion is...
They're like an adaptation.
Yeah, they're like a different adaptation. Basically, the story behind the rebuilds is that Hideaki Anno wanted to create like a jumping off point for people to tell other stories in future generations, in the same way that like Gundam is sort of like that.
Okay.
And he founded Studio Kara to produce the movies and create a more like cohesive foundation for people to work off of. That was his goal, from what I understand from reading things about it.
I'm just excited to watch a version of Evangelion that has a more proper ending.
I really like the last two episodes of the TV because it feels to me less of like it's giving a thesis on itself and more that it's deconstructing itself to be the basic elements of what it is and presenting that to the characters individually, if that makes sense.
It does. I would argue that those are kind of the same thing, but I sort of get what you're saying.
But it's on like a meta level, right?
Oh yeah, like it's not just a character sitting down from the audience and for 20 minutes being like, and this is what we meant by this. It's doing it in a more creative way that, air quotes, makes sense within the narrative. But it still can come off as like, sorry, we ran out of time to really get to this point in a more natural way, but we still want to say the things we wanted to say, and here are those things.
I also just think, like, from a meta storytelling perspective, that this show is so ahead of its time and, like, in the forefront of where a lot of writing has gone since then, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, the ending of Evangelion gets so deconstructed that the characters are, like, monologuing and talking to themselves for long periods of time. And I can't really think of much other media that did that before this.
I mean, there was definitely other things.
Oh,
but like,
yeah, like, there was, but not... I don't think there was anything that was on a straight course and then pivoted to crazy meta storytelling in the same way that this kind of does. Because as Evangelion goes on, it gets a lot more abstract, a lot more philosophical, a lot less literal.
I feel like saying that they pivoted suggests that it wasn't planned, and I do feel like they planned this from the beginning. There was
yes.
a sort of a fake out at the beginning.
No. I mean a tone shift. I mean a pivot in tone. I don't mean a pivot in writing, per se. I think it was always intentional, but the story goes from being very linear to very abstract in a way that feels unprecedented to me and is absolutely fascinating, and I think a lot of things have tried to replicate and haven't been able to do it quite as well.
We mentioned earlier how Evangelion was one of the main pillars of anime's rise in the West. Like, it was right up there with, like, Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon and Cowboy Bebop and a lot of those other things that made anime as big as it was here today. But the thing is, like, a lot of those other things that were making anime popular in the West, again, Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, those were still, I'm gonna put big air quotes on this, childish. I think Evangelion had an even more important role as being one of the first, like, not just, hey, look at this cool thing from Japan, but as a, hey, look at how animation can do serious stories for adults.
I think a better way of putting that is that the target demographic for a lot of the shonen series that were big, like Dragon Ball, Yu-Gi-Oh!, etc., those were targeted at kids. This is not targeted at kids.
Wasn't Evangelion pretty notoriously originally aired on a kid's time slot?
I think in the West, I don't know
No, in Japan. I'm pretty sure, like, maybe that's a misinformation thing, but I'm fairly certain I had read that it started out on a children's time slot, and then, hilariously enough, around the halfway point where it shifted into more mindfuckery, it got pushed back to a later slot.
I don't know. I'd have to research that. I don't trust anything that anyone says to me about Evangelion anymore. I have trust issues now.
That's fair.
And I think that brings up an interesting point, is that anime still in the West has a reputation of being more mature, and I think Evangelion is one of the core reasons for that. I don't think I put that together.
Again, its influence is incalculable.
Who was your favorite character? And who was the character you related with the most?
Asuka and Shinji, unfortunately. Respectively and unfortunately. I need to clarify, maybe not so much today. Like, I wouldn't say I relate to Shinji today, but I definitely relate to Shinji as, like, how I felt when I was younger.
And I think that's how media is meant to be interpreted, is that when you look at characters, like, you often reflect on how you were at their age, with their experiences, etc. Like, it's like how I was talking about how, like, Misato is a completely different character to me now than she was when I was 17, and like, wow, she's hot!
I don't know if there's any character that I would say my current self relates to very hard.
I remember really relating with Asuka, and like I relate with her attention-seeking behavior. I don't know that I relate with her quite as much now, though. I related more with Misato.
That's probably for the best.
I mean, I still relate with the attention-seeking behavior. That's never going away, and the mommy issues, that's never going away. I do think I related more with Misato now. I also felt like I related a lot with Shinji on rewatch. I don't think I felt that way the first time I watched it, but I definitely felt more empathetic to Shinji this rewatch. At least in terms of, like, his depression and, like, how he relates with other human beings and how his anxiety gets the best of him.
Mm-hmm.
Low self-esteem, all that good stuff.
You know, I didn't relate very much anymore to his whole, like, you assume people hate you because you hate yourself thing. Like, that was definitely more of a younger Beanie. Current Beanie, though, I can still definitely relate to his mindset of, like, people-pleasing.
See, I didn't relate with that before, but I related with that now, of, like, oh, people... Not the people-pleasing as much. I meant, like the thinking people hate you because you hate yourself. That was not something that That got to be in my first watch, and it's something that hit really hard this watch.
That fucking line, I was like, hey, show? That's rude. That's rude, show.
Maybe I hate myself because my parents hated me. Come on, Shinji.
This is getting too depressing, so we're gonna go into retro reviews now. Now, so as usual, one of the first places I looked for old reviews was Anime News Network, but all the oldest and most relevant reviews were basically just, you already know this show is fantastic, so we're just going to talk about the production quality of the DVDs. I decided to do something a little different with the retro reviews this time, because just reading off 4 paragraphs of unending praise from when the show came out would just get boring after a while. Instead, I hopped onto my anime list, and I found a bunch of negative reviews from the mid-2000s when Evangelion was in its hate era.
Yes!
And we're just gonna read them and laugh at them.
Oh, I was about to say, like, I hope you found bad reviews, like, of people who hated it. Oh, I'm so excited.
Now, I did decide to be nice. Unlike usual, I'm not going to include the names of whoever posted these. These are just going to be out-of-context snippets. I think the characters might have been my biggest problem with the series. The characters brought nothing to the series. The main character Shinji has to be one of the worst, if not the worst anime character ever. He had no depth, emotion, and didn't try me in. He was just Annie-oing, and I wanted him to die almost from the beginning. The same with most of the other ones. I can't think of on character I actually liked. That's just the first one.
This really makes me just realize that Evangelion is entirely something where you get as much out of it as you put in. And if you're not willing to engage and suspend your disbelief and engage with the psychological and philosophical aspects, you're just not going to have a good time.
Do you know when anime characters desperately need a hug? You can identify them easily. They stare at the other characters with beady eyes, desperately needing to open their hearts, thinking about all the things they should say, starting sentences that never get finished. Well, turns out all the characters in Evangelion are like that. They all need a hug, badly. That one's not necessarily as negative as it is just kind of funny.
Yes, correct. It's almost as if people living through traumatic events need support.
I can't think of anything redeeming to say about this anime. It could have had good characters, but whoever wrote it was too busy making every single character behave like a lunatic. It could have had a good story, but whoever wrote it was too busy raving about metaphysical nonsense. To me, it just feels like whoever wrote this got really depressed halfway through and decided to, I don't know, open up. There is some truth to that. They did get depressed partway through.
There's so much to unpack in that one. Oh my god.
These are all so bad. These are all such surface level bullshit.
These are crazy.
Can I say, this is the kind of shit that I've been expecting from retro views from the beginning. This is the kind of thing I thought that we were going to be getting from most of the show. I've honestly, in the past, especially for certain episodes, been very surprised at how nuanced the takes of the time were. Takes of the time would have also been a good name for this segment. But no, it's finally here. This is the kind of surface level, uneducated bullshit that I've been expecting for months now.
Can we do more of these? Can we have, like, a bad review section?
Alright, this is the last one.
Okay.
Why do they neglect the story? They do so in order to focus on the main character, Ikari Shinji, a young boy whose only problem in the whole world is that his father won't read him bedtime stories. Seriously, that's what the entire anime is about.
What?
One spoiled and pathetic boy being angry over his father neglecting his fatherly duties. That the world is set aphalam is all around him doesn't matter.
What? Did they miss the part where the apocalypse was gonna happen? Did they miss the part where there were the fucking giant angels attacking the city? Like, what? What? I don't...
Oh, 2009.
How can someone what? Media literacy is important. Teach critical thinking. That's my takeaway from this is critical thinking is so important, everyone.
Speaking of takeaways, don't think we need to do the whole would we recommend this today segment. Obviously, yes. A note that I would like to make on that, though, based on how I was talking about the ending of the show. If we're talking about just the show, I feel like at this point it's pretty clear that if you want to watch this, you should probably also watch End of Evangelion. But I do want to say, even if you just watch the baseline 26 episodes, while I do think that the ending is maybe disappointing, or maybe not as fulfilling as it could be, I don't think it's one of those cases where it retroactively ruins the experience.
No.
I do still think that this is absolutely worth watching. However, I will say, trigger warning for basically everything.
Yeah, if you have triggers, check the Does the Dog Die site for this one. There's a lot. Mildly interesting, though. My wife actually doesn't want to watch Evangelion because she liked the ending of the TV series so much.
Interesting.
She said that it helped her process her mental health in a way that no therapist ever has before.
Huh.
Like, the way that the show presents it is very... And I like, agree. Like, I think that while there is a lot of, like, downer shit, that my experience with this rewatch, I felt bettered my mental health. Just because of the stuff they talk about, and especially with things like, are you assuming other people hate you because you hate yourself and stuff like that. Like, it's... Like, if you invest in the show and you put your whole heart into it and really dig into yourself while you're watching it, I think it's such a rewarding experience. And I think it can be healthy in a way that seems almost antithetical to watching all of these characters suffer.
I do agree. I feel the need to put a little disclaimer on here. No matter how good it is, no matter how well it is written, please do not use watching anime as a substitute for actual therapy. Please go to therapy.
No, but my point is more so that sometimes media can present things in a different way that registers to us in a different way than talking to a therapist would be.
Oh, no, yeah, I know that's not what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure that it's very clear.
Oh, yeah.
I don't need people in our comments section complaining about us saying that people don't need therapy. Please go to therapy.
Please.
Even if you don't think you need therapy, go to therapy. It's nice.
Please
it's
go
good.
to therapy. Go for me, please.
Go for me. I can't afford it right now.
Exactly.
Go to therapy and tell them about my problems.
Yeah.
Tell me what they said.
Go to therapy and tell them about my mommy issues.
Now, what I would not have an issue with is if you followed us on Blue Sky at Weeb. Did you like that segue? That was kind of dumb.
No, that was good. That was clever. Caught me off guard.
If you've listened this far, there's a good chance that you enjoyed it. And if you enjoyed it, number one, thank you very much. And number two, there's so many other places that you can find us. Like I said, we're on Blue Sky at Weeb. If you have questions or suggestions, feedback, any of that, theweebeers@gmail.com. We've got a mailbox. Send us whatever. Also, we've recently started doing streams on Twitch. If you want to come and watch us, this is how we've decided we're going to cover video games. Currently, we are playing through Persona 3 FES and Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. We are alternating. We're doing one stream a week. We don't have a designated channel for the Weebiers streams. We're kind of just hijacking my normal Twitch channel for that. So that is green_bean_supreme, or supreme missing an E. If you want to come and watch us play video games together, there will be a VOD upload on the YouTube every Thursday that we don't get a episode.
The YouTube, if you will.
We will not. What we will do, however, I'm really good on segues today, is encourage you to like, follow, subscribe, share it around, all that good call to action stuff. The more you do that, the more we can do this. And you obviously enjoy this because you're listening to this part of this.
And you watched the Evangelion episode, which you already knew was a good show, probably.
Good night, everyone.
Bye!